Hey, this is Joe Pardo, and you're chasing dreams with Aimee J.
Welcome to Chasing Dreams Podcast with Aimee J. Aimee believes that realizing a life without regrets is achieved by taking chances, chasing your dreams, making moves, and overcoming your doubts. The Chasing Dreams Podcast will help you overcome life's obstacles, believe in your potential, and inspire you to face your fears. And now here's the woman who is passionately pursuing her dreams, Aimee J.
Hey Dream Chasers, this is Aimee J, and once again I am bringing you a wonderful podcast guest, but also a fellow dream chaser. And I mean, not literally a dream chaser, but literally he is a dream chaser. This is Joe Pardo. He's a New Jersey-based dreamer who has always believed that society starts with you, and that to change society, you must first change how you think. So in early 2014, Joe actually decided to leave his family's $100 million business and pursue his own dreams. He founded the Motivational Dreamers podcast. It's found at howtodream.co, and all these links again will be in the show notes, so don't bother trying to write it down. And he did that to build his platform around helping others pursue their dreams. So do you see what I'm saying, guys? He is literally another dream chaser. Joe and I kind of met at the podcast movement in 2015, and we've been friends since, kind of keeping in touch with each other, seeing how we've been doing. And he has a resume that will just, it shocked me. It may shock you. I'm just going to read a few of these. More of this will be on the show notes page. But he's written 2 books. 2 books, guys. One is entitled 31 Life-Changing Concepts, and the second is How to Dream Big and Win. Both great books. I've read them, own them, recommend them. And he started a podcast conference, the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference. He's launched a speaking career. He's coached tons of online entrepreneurs. He started an online business school. He's been on over 40 different podcast shows. He's released over 250 podcast episodes. He's teaching middle schoolers how to podcast. He's got a greeting card company. I mean, I don't even know. Joe's been doing so much. He probably has a cooking channel coming up or something. It wouldn't surprise me. I got to ask him if he does that. If so, I need to be the first in his school. Joe, how are you?
Aimee, I am doing fabulous. How about yourself?
Let me tell you, I am so happy to have you on the show. We've been talking about this for a while, and finally the stars have aligned for you to come on and talk with us about what you are doing. And let's recap our meeting first, real quick. I met you at Podcast Movement. I was talking to, who was it?
Kamanzi.
Yes, I was at Kamanzi's, and he was talking about his book, Stop Chasing Influencers.
Yes,
right?
It's a great book.
It was a great book also.
Check it out if you're looking to do any kind of online business.
It's wonderful, guys. Also, they have a Kickstarter. The links and stuff will be on the show notes. I have that book as well. I believe, Joe, you do as well.
It is. It's one of the few books that I've gotten to actually read in my life.
And I'm talking to Kamanzi, and I have my signs, and I was getting people to hold the sign that says Chasing Dreams or I am a dream chaser. And I was talking to Kamanzi about this, and you see these signs, I guess, right?
Yes. I was standing like right next to you at the time.
All I remember is hearing someone go, "Hey, what's that?" And I was like, in my head, I'm going, excuse you, I was having a conversation. That's all I could.
Oh, my bad.
No. It was great because you were like, this is awesome. And I was like, wait, really? I thought you were just mocking me, but no, you seriously were excited about this.
Yeah, well, you gotta, when you see people that, are willing to do things that other people, I guess, would maybe mock, or it's sad that we go for that first, right? Like,
right.
That would be, because that'd be my first impression too, is like, oh, somebody who thinks they're all like high and mighty and super powerful with their like internet billions or whatever is like, what the hell is this kid doing here with this sign?
Right.
Right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse. but you know, it was like what. It's not something I was expecting, especially at that conference where it is mostly people that are there to figure out how to make money.
Right. It's a big conference for entrepreneurs and podcasters, but definitely business podcasts rule.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that because, you know, we as dreamers and as people who find these hobbies and passions, like we want to try to make it, you know, that's like the pie in the sky goal is to like, if I could just like get paid to talk about like Doctor Who all day, every day, or and I mean,
Sure.
I'm not even a Doctor Who fan, but just something to that effect, right? Because I know they're super passionate about their podcasts and
I'm pretty sure if you got paid to talk about Disney all day, you'd be good.
Yeah, actually, over time, I think I would actually, because originally I was told I should have a Disney podcast. I mean, you can see the Disney influence behind me, but I always said, well, I would get bored with that. But honestly, I probably wouldn't now that I have gotten to a certain level of comfortability. I don't know if that's really a word, but talking about things, having my own opinion, and then expressing them in a way that, you know, people follow them, and you know, I enjoy helping people. So getting to help people through their Disney trips would be one way that I would not mind doing podcasting at some point, possibly, maybe.
Well, I mean, I that was one of the things I learned about you is you're a big Disney fan, but you're also a big dreamer, which is how we connected. So despite my initial thoughts, you were very, very sincere and excited. I mean, we took pictures. Joe's also one who held the sign, of course. And we did it together, I believe.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah, we took a selfie, as I took many that week with, or an Ussie, really, because I don't really take too many selfies because I try not to be narcissistic. But, you know, it's fun to do it with groups of people because, you know, it gives a sense of belonging for everybody that's there, and a memory that you can have. And, you know, you don't have to stop to ask somebody to take your picture and hope that they don't run off with your phone.
That is a fear that some people have.
Well, if your whole life's in your phone, then yeah, it's a very big, very real fear that I personally have, because I've had phones stolen from not stolen like that, but
I was gonna say
in the past growing up, like back in high school and stuff, like I've had phones stolen right out of my locker.
Oh wow, that's sad, actually.
Out of gym locker, yeah, it's horrible. Twice. It's like I had to go back to my dad and explain, like, why is my phone not there? Like, where did it go?
It was stolen. It had it was out of my control.
Yeah, it was
had
locked
nothing
up.
to do with it.
You know, I can't control somebody going out of their way to like look over my shoulder for my combination or something. Like,
No.
I tried, but you know, we do our best, but you can't always do it.
Thus is life, right?
Yeah.
There's some things we can't control, and a lot of things we can't control, and we just kind of have to let go and let happen.
That is very true. You know, and that's why it's like, okay, so you do what you can as far as what you can control, you try to control. And in my life, I've taken that to a a whole nother level. I mean, one of the things about me is I don't even drink because I don't like to not be in control of my situation or something like that. I don't know, we're getting like way off topic, but
Okay,
so it's
so-
just I like to know what's going on because I like to be in control of my situation.
So you're right. Let me bring it back. We were talking about the fact that we met each other at the conference,
Yes.
right? And that phones get stolen and stuff. But we took a selfie, and you were very sincere, and you were the first person I've ever met that kind of lived what I've been kind of hoping people would understand, that life is short. You have to dream. You have to just chase the dreams. And that we connected over that. And that was awesome to me.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that, and that was something like even growing up, and you know, DJing and wanting to DJ when really I could have probably just continued working, you know, invested that time in relaxing and all that. Like I always loved creating and doing stuff, and it's like, what can I do to like, so at the end of the day, I'm leaving this world on empty, like everything I have inside of me gets out.
So you've always kind of had that belief that dreaming is important?
Oh, definitely. The only problem that I ran into was that I allowed my life, the path that I was on, which was, go work for my family's business and eventually take over and all that. Like I allowed that to just kind of erode that because it was, it wasn't easy, but it was the easy way. Well, relatively speaking.
Did the fact that it was, your family business and maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, was it expected that you would kind of be a part of that?
To some people, one of the things that my grandparents told me, because I was about 6 years old and I was on the floor at my grandparents' house, and it was my grandfather who started the biggest of the companies that make up that enterprise. But crying because I was the only boy in the family, and I felt like I was going to be expected to take over the company. But that's not really what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was be a child psychologist to help other children going through divorce like I was experiencing. So like 6, 7 years old. And they told me, Joe, that's ridiculous. You can do whatever it is that you want as long as you do, the best that you can at it, then we're going to be proud and fine with it.
Wow, so they supported
definitely
that.
Changed things for me. Oh yeah, they were. It's funny too because I've had conversations with my dad about this, and he's like, that doesn't sound like your grandfather to me, and I'm like, well, yeah, because he wasn't your grandfather, he was your dad.
Right, he was your dad, he was your parent.
Exactly.
It's a different perspective that I get than you did. And so you had that nurturing, that support, I guess, from a very early age.
Yeah, from them, I definitely did. Because I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house growing up. So to me, it was super important, and still is super important that they said what they said when they said it. And even like to this day, it's funny how things, and I talk about this on my show and in my books and stuff, how things come back around when it comes to childhood dreams. Like, okay, did I become a child psychologist? No, I didn't. But I'm teaching kids in middle school how to podcast. I'm not a teacher per se, like not like a licensed or
right. You don't go to grade school and then teach like second grade.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, I probably wouldn't want to. But my point is that combined with going and getting to speak at schools is a huge part of like, being able to multiply what was inside of me growing up,
right?
Into talking to 100 or 200 kids, it can change lives like on a massive scale.
So it may not have been what you envisioned at 6 years old, but you're still getting the essence of what you were thinking about back then.
Yep, exactly, and that's and I find that a lot with my show, like with the guests I have on. A lot of times it does come back around to like maybe it's not exactly what as a kid we thought we would be doing, but the essence when you break it down to like the very bit of like what we wanted to do, which was help other kids, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't help other kids pay taxes and shuffle bills around and try to work really hard at marketing so I can get clients. And all, like, no, it was just help kids. And now it's like, okay, that essence is coming in a different way in my life, like 20 plus years later.
It's funny how the experiences of our childhood, of our teenage years, they kind of mold us. They kind of guide us, and they show up at the funniest times.
Well, yeah, because the other half of that is, getting to speak, requires a skill that I didn't really have until I started DJing when I was about 17 years old, which is being able to get up in front of a bunch of people and, do something that some people might see as embarrassing or too shy to do. So getting up and speaking in front of a bunch of people like that, it takes time to learn that kind of stuff. But it's something I had to, endure through the process of becoming a DJ. I mean, so it's like it all comes back together. And a lot of times if we ignore those things, if we just stay inside of the job that we're in, maybe we get to utilize some of that stuff. Because even people that don't say quit their job and go figure out what they're going to do and do this awesome thing, even like just their job in general, like what they end up going to school for and what they wind up doing, a lot of times has some kind of roots to what they wanted to be as a kid.
I mean, that's very true. A lot of people and a lot of the guests I've talked to on the show have said, I may not be doing what I went to school for originally, or I may not be doing exactly what I thought I would be doing back then, but the things I learned from that process are still with me. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people are all or nothing. They don't really grasp the fact that the skills you're learning is something, and that's a part of it, and that's the important part. Whether the end result is what you expect or not is a different story.
Yeah, definitely. And it sometimes you have to dig a lot deeper to figure it out. It's not always super apparent what, it's like, oh, I wanted to be this as a kid and now I'm doing this desk job or something. But as a great example is my good friend Joy. She wanted to be an astronaut. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it because of a medical reason with being in a flight suit and going hundreds and whatever, how many miles an hour it is. She wasn't able to do it, but she works with the space program for NASA now, launching satellites.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's like, it definitely has roots in what she wanted to do growing up. Unfortunately, she just can't do that, at least until they invent a different way for it to be.
And maybe they will.
It's very possible.
At least she's in the right area for that, right?
Yep.
If she was somewhere else, I don't know, doing something else, it might be a little bit harder for her to see that dream realized.
Yep, definitely.
So Joe, at an early age, you're good with this. You understand dreams are important. They're your thing. You didn't leave your family's business though till early 2014.
Yeah, it took me about 2 years of kicking it around in my own mind. Because this is, as my new friend Matt Marr put it, it's not all too dissimilar as to like coming out of the closet, if you will, to especially your family or your dad, because it was expected that I was going to stay there and I was going to continue to be there, and I was like, all right, what am I gonna do? Go back to school? All right, well, let me figure that out. I hate school. I never did well in it because I hated homework, because I'm like, I'm in school for like 8 hours a day. Why do I got to do another like 4 or 5 hours of homework? And it doesn't seem to be getting any better now that I'm having a daughter. I'm not getting panic attacks over it, but I'm like, oh God, I am not looking forward to these teachers dumping tons and tons of homework on my daughter and then me having to like help pick up the slack. No matter how easy it might be for me to do it now.
Right. It's not neither here nor there. You're still going to have to do it.
Yes.
So that it took you a while to kind of come around to that fact?
Yeah, I had some friends that were really like, one friend in particular that was always like, oh, so when are you going back to school? Because I tried to go to college, but, to me it was like, well, I just didn't see the value in it, because the plan was to stay where I was anyway. And, having a degree wasn't going to make a difference. So finally, when I worked up the nerve, I told my dad I was going to go back to school. And that was in 2013, August. I remember because it was the same night that I helped my friend pack up all of his stuff out of his house to move to New York. And after I helped him pack up the truck, I went over to my dad's house to go deliver the news. And it was, I don't think he really believed it. Like, cause I don't think he really thought like, oh, Joe's going to actually do this. But I did. I went back to school, started taking some night classes. And what I found was that I wasn't really learning a whole lot. And I didn't really, like, I was going back for business administration because that's what I had started like forever ago. And fortunately for me, I just made the cutoff of like my grades from back then.
Oh, transferring over.
Yeah,
okay.
Still being valid at a community, on a community college level. But so I did it. I went back for I don't know what, like 4 semesters, I think 4 or 5 semesters ultimately. But I ultimately stopped going because I was like, this isn't a challenge. I'm getting like A's on everything that I do, the tests. There's no challenge here, and I'm gonna have to still go to school for like a lot longer because I still had, I don't know, probably close to 15 classes left. If you're only taking 1 or 2 a semester, it's gonna take a long time to knock that out. And then at the end of the day, what do I have? An associate's degree. Whoop-de-doo. That's not going to get me a job anywhere that I would even want. Not that I even really want a job. So I had to wrangle with that, right? Because I was, and here's the lesson that's coming up is I was hedging my bets on, well, I'm working towards, building my own, company and all that stuff. But at the same time, like this school stuff, even though I'm doing really well at it, it is taking up a bit of my time and energy, and I have to like recuperate, in between, like in between all the work that I'm doing during the day, and then going to school at night, and then having to wake up in the morning and still have to get the homework done or whatever. It just takes a lot of effort to do it. So finally, I was like, I'm just gonna stop going, and I'm gonna work towards making this a reality because my associate's degree is not going to do me any good. I don't want a middle management job, so figuring out what I wanted was really important. But going to school, I will say this: going to those classes, while I learned a little bit here and there. I learned a lot of terms for things that I didn't know the terms for before, but I had already experienced them. Being in and around the business since I was little, I made friends. I made friends with all of my teachers. Heck, we've had a couple of the teachers come to the house for parties. So I guess it did help in that sense. But overall, like for me, it was not worth the time or the amount of money it was going to cost to invest in it.
And when you say that you were trying to figure out this, did you figure it out, or were you kind of on a rolling basis of, all right, I know I have an overall concept of what I want to do, and then let's see what happens?
You don't always get to know exactly what it is. I mean, everybody yells business plan, and sometimes it is good. It depends on how you work, right? It's really up to you. If you need that kind of accountability because you can't like see it in your mind and you need to get it out on paper and like work out a plan, that's great. And I hope that you do that, and I hope that you stick to it, and I hope that you know that that's what you need to make it work. For me, it's tough because, and I was just talking to a very good friend of mine over the weekend about this, because I come from an IT background. Computers is my world since I was little. Coding and programming and stuff like that. Like, while I'm not a programmer, it's probably something I should have kept doing because I probably would have excelled or could excel better at it. But at this point, I'm too far invested in the direction I'm heading to like double back and be like, okay, now I'm going to be a programmer.
Right.
Because programming, if you don't know it, you can learn it, but you need to use it every day or you'll lose it just like any other language you could learn. In my mind, like I can see things like 2-3 steps out, and sometimes it's hard for me to explain it to people because like my mind's already like 2-3 steps ahead in the conversation of like as if I had already explained it to you, like explained those steps to you, but I didn't. So it's tough, and it's something I've had to work on for a long time now, and only gotten slightly better, admittedly, at the idea of like, okay, I need to slow down. Where's step one? Okay, where's step two? And when I'm trying to explain to people, because like in my mind, like I already have the plan. I already know where I want to head. I know what I want.
Sense.
Yeah, it all makes sense. Like everything like clicks together like a lock, right? Like the insides of a lock. But when you're trying to explain it to somebody, they're just like, man, this boy don't know what he's talking about. and it's sad because it like in my head I see it. Like I see how it all works, but it's hard sometimes for me to slow it down to explain it. Not that people can't understand. I just know I suck at explaining things.
It's something you worked on.
Well, you know what's funny is I was, and this is totally off topic, but the other day I was actually looking up the Chinese calendar, and I was looking up. I happened to come across my year, and it's funny because it actually hit on the idea that I'm bad at explaining things to people.
Really?
Yeah, as I for whatever reason, I can't even remember what I am off the top of my head at this point. But yeah, one of the explanations was that my year is bad at explaining things. A short straw when it comes to like developers, or well, maybe not developers. If you're like the everything person, the developer, the funder, the marketer, the designer and stuff.
You can't always be 100% with everything.
No, I know. I try. I try really, really hard.
Well,
but
look at you though. Better. Listen, you have let's talk about the number of different things you have going on. The books, speaking, your coaching, did all of this come up organically, or do you have a plan that you kind of wanted to see this unroll the way it is?
So like when I came back to my dad, it was because even though I started going back to school in 2013, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I ended up going to, I thought maybe I'd be good at sports management. I don't have a degree in it, but I'm pretty good with numbers and people and stuff like that. I was like, I think I could have an eye for this.
Okay.
How do I get into it? I don't know. Well, let me do some research. I went to a networking event over in Philly at one of the stadiums, actually, and I realized very quickly, and I had never been to a networking event, that they're awful. They're really awful. It's like 150 people standing there with like 7 people that those 150 people can talk to, like that's why they're there to talk. And it's like, they're like, blah, blah, blah. This is so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. Okay, now you're going to have 45 minutes. Go. And it's like 150 people immediately turn to their left and like pin the 7 people up against the wall, waiting in line to get their like 2 seconds to talk to them. And I was like, wow, this is horrible. How is anybody supposed to get a job out of this?
It's very awkward.
It is. And I talked to like, I think 3 or 4 people. But the last person I talked to, I became friends with. He was on my show, Ryan. He's like second in command in the ECHL, which is like the AA minor hockey league.
Okay.
If you're going by baseball league type standards, and basically he kind of put it to me. He's like, yeah, sports is great. He's like, I love it. He's like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I worked my butt off to get where I'm at, but he's like, it's not a great world for everybody. When grandma's sick, you can't just be by her side because it's game day and you got to go. Like,
oh wow,
game day is. Like,
I mean, that's a reality we don't really see, is it?
Not well. I mean, some people do. I mean, hey, some of those people are getting paid very handsomely, but it's like, at what cost is it worth not being able to like take one game day off because grandma might be passing away soon? But I guess a part of that is it depends on what league or you went into. Like if it was football, there's only 16 games a season. You can't miss one. But you're missing a high percentage if that's the case.
This is true. So did that make you see that sports management wasn't really for you?
Yeah, it made me realize that I was like, yeah, that's not for me. And I got a great friend out of the deal. So, it worked out. It worked out for me to go. And that's, something that I really encourage people to do is at least, try something. Like I went there, I didn't, I've never done anything in sports. And then I also what I learned was the way that you get promoted in sports is you sell tickets. You start in the sales department, which I am not a big fan of sales to begin with, and work your way up through, selling tickets to make it up the ranks. And that's like, oh, so that's where it comes from. It's how many tickets can you sell? I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, hey, at least I went. I found out that what I didn't want and what I didn't like about it, and then I was able to move on to something else. But sometimes people get stuck on that whole like, well, last week you were like, I'm going to go do sports management. And now this week you're not, and you're going to go do something else. It's like, yeah, but I actually took the initiative, went somewhere, made a friend, and found out the truth about what I don't want to be in, So it's not what I found what I wanted to be in. I found what I didn't want to be in.
Right, so it's not a loss of any sort. I mean, you did learn something.
No, and I got to see a really bad Sixers game, so,
I cannot comment on Philly sports. I live here now. I will not comment on Philly sports. So how did these books come out?
So I guess to actually answer your last question, coming back to it, I realized when I found out about podcasting, like I knew about podcasting, but there was only one podcast I listened to, and shout out to WDW Today, which is now under new management. It's sad because those guys kind of really set me up and kind of was a way of giving permission for it to be okay to like go to Disney World by yourself without a family or friends or like you're gonna I have friends down there now, and that's why I go. But anyway, I went to my dad and was like, look, there's this guy and I'm going to start this podcast. And the guy I'm talking about is, of course, John Lee Dumas. And, he look how much money he's making from podcasting. And so it's really like a booming thing. And my dad's like, well, how are you going to make money from a free thing? And I was like, well, you use it to write books and you get sponsorships. And there's like all these different ways of going about making money with it. And about 2 months, probably like 2 months in, 3 months in, I realized, okay, the sponsorship money isn't going to just come rolling in just because I have a show. So it's like, okay, what do I do now? Okay, well, let's see. I can do all those other things that everybody else is doing to make money. I can go on the path of writing books. I can go on the path of speaking. I can go on the path of starting up an online school to teach people how to podcast and people how to do business and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, so I started like all this was in my head, but it wasn't like on paper. There was no like business plan. And I can remember being at a very good friend of mine's house, and he's like, well, what's your business plan? Where's it at? You need one because you can't do any of this stuff if you're not going to have a business plan. And I was like, I have one book. Like I don't need like a whole like I don't need.
That's more than a lot of people.
Yeah. But my point is not like I was making buku dollars off this book. That was like, oh man, I better like incorporate myself tomorrow so that I can get tax benefits and whatever.
Did it just get too serious too soon?
No. Because I honestly, I still actually, this one of the things I have to do this year is incorporate myself. So, and that was in August of 2014. So, or September of, I think it was like beginning of September in 2014. But, yeah, so it's like, I knew then that I didn't need to do all that stuff just yet because I only had one book. Like, right. I wasn't making a ton of money or sponsorships. In fact, my Dreamers podcast to this day still goes unsponsored, partly by reason and partly because sponsorships can be a headache.
Yeah, I have heard that.
They really they can be. Though with that said, there is actually one company that I might hook up with that I'm really excited about the products that they're coming out with. So that might be changing soon.
That's exciting.
Yeah. But it's because I feel it, right? Like, I have other shows that have. Well, I have one other show that has sponsorship, but it's niched in the Disney niche. So finding sponsorships for that show is a lot easier than finding sponsorships for a show that's about anybody who has a dream and is doing it.
Right. Yeah. Hey, I understand that.
It's all about focus at that point, right? Yeah.
I understand that.
I know. I know you do.
So are you just kind of figuring out what you're enjoying and kind of doing that? And not necessarily worrying about other things?
I mean, like right now, like I run six shows, like you said, and it's tough sometimes to make that balance, right? With work, with doing things that like actively make money, things that could potentially make money, and then there's the shows. But like the thing I love about Dreamers Podcast is it adds authenticity to everything else I do, because it's not like some overly big complicated thing with a bunch of sponsors, and it's not too commercialized, if you will. As of right now, it's not commercialized at all. So and for the most part, with the exception of this one sponsor that I might work with in the future, I don't want it to be, and I don't necessarily need it to be, because it ties in with my speaking career. Mm-hmm. Right? So like getting to talk to kids about pursuing their dreams is great, and then feeding them back into a show is wonderful. It's really great. And then it also, the books tie into the speaking career. The podcast conference ties into my online business school, teaching people how to podcast. And so does, so does my speaking career, because I get to have some level of speaking at that as well. So, and making connections and all that stuff. So everything I do is coming together, and there's some people in my life that are finally just getting it, even though the money isn't like pouring in. It's coming in, and it's starting. It's like starting up now. And the way I explain it is, look, if I went to school, right, and I think this is super important especially for people who are like, I'm looking to like quit my job or something to that effect and do this other thing. Mm-hmm. If you go to school and you go to your parents or your friends or whatever, and you're going to school and you left your job to go to school full time, the first question that they won't ask you is, how much money did you make?
That's true.
Because you're in school, right? That makes perfect sense. Why would you make money? Because you're in school. Unless, you had to work a part-time job, or, there's always going to be those types of situations. But if you left a job to go to school full-time, the first question that they would not ask is, how much money have you made going to school? So it always grinds my gears whenever somebody would say, Joe, how much money have you made so far? And I'd be like, well, I don't know. Now, with that said, I don't want people, it's really important, because I had this whole problem through 2015, and I know this is like right in the beginning of 2016. So try not to have this problem if you're looking or are working on trying to get out of your job. Don't treadmill on zero. And by what I mean by that is, just because, when we look at these numbers and we're like, oh man, I'm not making $100,000 a year doing what I'm doing, or even $50,000. Don't let it get to you that, oh, I must be making nothing then. So then you're on this idea of like you're constantly just making $0 on all the hours that you're investing.
Right, that you're almost wasting your time.
Exactly. So, and I did. I felt like, oh man, I'm just like treadmilling on zero here. Like every time someone asks me how much money I'm making, well, I don't know. at the end of the year, I look back and I'm at 12 grand. And it's like, okay, well, that was $1,000 a month. Well, hell, I only need, like two grand more a month, and I can be sustainable for what I'm doing at least.
Right. For what you're happy with.
Yeah. I don't need big cars. I don't even want big cars or any of that crap. I mean, maybe a new phone every year, but that's what's important to me. And that's $600, not $600 a month.
It's a valid point. It's a valid point. So it seems like everything you have going on has stemmed for something that you've enjoyed and is now coming together with each other.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I'm not trying to paint a picture of like tons of money here, but I will say this, it's it is tough. And one of the hardest decision I had to make was leaving a company that it's like everything I have is because of that company. Like everything. I mean, I made money at DJing or whatever, but that was your main income. Yeah, that was DJing was not my. In fact, a lot of times I was DJing for nothing at bars and stuff like that. Coincidentally, down in Baltimore.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's like it can be tough to make those decisions when it's like, man, where am I going to make, $40,000, $50,000 a year? That it doesn't happen by accident, especially like if you're in my case where it's like, hey, I don't have IT certifications, but I have 23 years of working with computers since I was 6 years old working with computers.
It's not traditional. It's
not. And there's a lot of people like me. And you know what? And there's been plenty of people that have told me, Joe, why don't you just start up like an IT business or something? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, because I don't want to have to wake up at 2 a.m. because a computer decides to stop doing what it's built to do.
It's not what makes you happy. I mean,
heck no, I hate computers. I mean, I use them all day, like way more than I should. And I'm very skilled at utilizing them and maintaining them and stuff. But I hate them because they never do what you're supposed to do when it's for someone else.
Well, Joe, before we get to your corner portion, I think the biggest question is, are you happy with how things are going right now?
Yeah, I am. I think, I just spent a lot of time at a mentor's house when I was in Florida for that. I don't know if we mentioned I just did a marathon, but when I was in Florida, and he showed me so many things that like it's saving me so much time now. Like it's only been 2 days since I've been back, mm-hmm. and I've saved countless hours and frustration because of what he was willing to show me over the course of 3 days.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. So and a lot of people ask me like, oh, well, how's your wife about it? You left your job and you're home all day and she's going to work and she's a preschool teacher. She's way happier now than she was when I worked for my family, because I'm happier than when I worked for my family.
And that's the important part. I think we get so bogged down with what is traditional, what is expected, how to make money, that we forget how to be happy. And you're making it work.
We're getting there. I mean, I've had a lot of bumps along the way. I've had to still do work for my dad as far as like managing the IT side of things. So I had, because I didn't have a runway. I mean, everything I have was tied into the business. Like I said, if it wasn't for these businesses, that I wouldn't have anything.
Right.
So I've had to, leverage that and utilize that time and build a runway basically as I go, which is not ideal. Please save up money and do your thing if you're going to do that. Don't take the path the mistake that I have, because you know what, the amount of stress that has come from that, I'd much rather have a secured highway or runway, even if it was shorter than longer. But I will say this, if you're you're looking to do something different with your life, and you're like, all right, I'm ready to leave this job, and it's, whether it's to go back to school or not go back to school, it's really it's really important that you get your resume together, not in the sense of like, I need to put a real resume to submit to jobs. One of the things that I wanted to make sure when I was getting started was, look, I know I could, put together a school. Like, I know WordPress, I know how to build websites and stuff like that, server administration, all that. But the thing is I wanted to not just say I'm an expert. I wanted to be, and now I call myself a professional, because professionals learn, experts know everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know everything, but I'm a professional because, like, professional baseball players and professional football players and professional anyone, they go and they do things to get better. They train, they learn, they take, classes or whatever. So I wanted to have my own resume built in this field of basically being Joe Pardo. That's the goal. That's the ultimate vision, to be able to do what I want, when I want, take what jobs I want, and not have to, sacrifice too much time away from my family for things that I don't really want to do. And obviously, we all have to make sacrifices from time to time, but
right,
this is the idealist here.
The overall, but I think you found a way to do that. You're happy with what you're doing. You're doing things you love, and it sounds like the experiences that you're having are leading you to, other successes. And I'm so excited to see the different things you have going on. Your new business school, your dream platform that you have going on. Just so many things that you're doing well, and you're happy. You and Melissa are over the moon, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's important. You need to be happy, because if you're not happy, you're just going to come home and you're going to yell for like 20 minutes, and that yelling, and while not maybe at your spouse or partner or whatever, may not be at them, it's not good for them, and it's definitely not good for you, as I have experienced for many, many, many years leading up to finally just leaving. But
see, that is the key. You made the decision and you made it work.
Yeah, and we've been.
And you're still making it work.
Making it work. Yeah,
it's a process. It's a process.
It is. But we'll look back, and I use the term, turning dreams into memories, and this is all just going to be a memory at some point. And I think it's also important to note that, like, I work a lot of hours to make this happen, way more hours than I was working before. So when I say I didn't train for a marathon, I mean, I did a little bit this time, but last year I didn't. When the longest run is 8 miles on an elliptical, and that was one run out of, 5 or 6 that I did to prepare, it's time I need to spend on getting all my pieces together.
For sure, but it's coming together.
It is, and this year, I mean, with our baby on the way, it's going to be even more exciting. People keep telling me, Joe, you're gonna be missing a lot of sleep, and I'm like, dude, I only sleep like 4 to 5 hours most nights anyway, because I just can't.
You'll be a natural. It'll be good.
I think it'll be fine. I think I'll do fine. I'm pretty used to this at this point. You just do what you got to do for however long, and it's also important to note that if I don't mind working, like I really enjoy it, especially if I'm enjoying the work that I'm putting out and doing. So it doesn't matter how successful or how much money I was to make, or if like, hey, I only have to work like 2 hours a day for like ever. I would still do it. Like, I would still want to work and come up with new projects. Like, I have a project this year. I want to do a party card game and kickstart it, because that's something I want to add to my school, and I want to be able to do more than just a how-to, like how to set up a Kickstarter.
Right.
I want to actually, knock it out of the park. And while January's already half over. I think once I get some things rolling from my conference, I think I'm going to start turning my attention more to the game and working on getting that kickstarted.
Well, we are excited to hear about this, and I can't wait to see what kind of party game you have going on. So, Joe, before we wrap up, what is one piece of advice, a quote, a resource, or whatever under the sun that you would give to another dream chaser?
So one of the things that my dad was passed down from my grandfather and great grandfather was that a hard deal is a bad deal, and in my case, the hard deal was putting up with a situation that I could no longer tolerate without screaming like every night. So it's important for you to figure out what's what really drives you, what's really inside of you that you've had since you were little or at least a teenager at the latest, and figure out what that is and break it down so that you can start making good deals for your life. And I know that sounds really lofty, but it's not. You can you just have to make the right decisions. And sometimes we've already, maybe in life we've already been dealt really tough hands, whether it's from our own mistakes or our own choices in the past or not. But, it really isn't too late to start to make even just small changes to work towards what it is that you want your goal to be. And even if that's just doing, starting with just a Google search to figure out, what is it that I'm going to do or can do with my life that would be different, to put myself in a different light, in a different and put it in a different perspective.
I love that. I think that's a great piece of advice that everyone should keep in mind.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story and the way you've kind of become happy, and figured out what you wanted to do. And we appreciate that. From one dreamer to another, I thank you.
Well, thank you, Aimee. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate the show, and I appreciate the fact that there's other people out there that want to do things like this and talk about, dreams and, what's really important to them. Because it's not the same for everybody, right?
That's very true.
The last thing I gotta commend you on is taking the road that's a way harder road than utilizing something that people already know and love, like taking a niche and say, I'm going to have a show about this niche that people already identify with and talk about it. So it's tough. It's a long, hard road, but it's really, really rewarding. And you get to do things like I said, I just did the marathon. Like there was plenty of people on the course that was like, "Hey, I love your show. Oh, it's Joe," like stuff like that. And it's hey, I'm not making any money, but or at least with that specific show, but that part of it's really rewarding, and getting to help people and getting to be a part of their lives. Like when one of the most magical things that I've experienced, and there's been quite a few in the last year and a half. One of them was the enjoyment of knowing that people downloaded my show on Christmas.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Out of their way to listen to or even Thanksgiving, went out of their way to download and listen to me and my guests on a holiday like that. It's just like, geez, like the people just don't take a day off, I guess. No,
but that's a high praise.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't matter if it's 5 people or 1,000 people. Somebody's taking that time on a day that most people are very set in what they have to get done in a day.
Right.
I know I am, with like 4 to 5 houses in one day.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
And that was my fellow dream chaser, Joe Pardo. I hope you guys enjoyed our talk. Please take what he said to heart. It's not too late to start making small changes towards your dreams. To find out more about Joe and find out how you can connect with him, as well as all the links mentioned in the show today, go to chasingdreamshq.com/episode 25. That's episode 25. Until next time, guys, make those small changes and keep chasing.
Thank you so much for listening to Chasing Dreams. Aimee would love to connect with you and hear all about your pursuit of chasing your dreams. Connect with her on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram via @ChasingDreamsHQ. Or you can find Aimee on Twitter @AimeeJ21. That's AIMEEJ21. Be sure to visit headquarters over at ChasingDreamsHQ.com for more inspiration, motivation, and resources to help with your own dream chase. We hope you'll join Aimee next week, and until then, keep chasing.